Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. Happy New Year. Hope everybody had a great holiday and you're ready for a very busy year. So we certainly are looking forward to it. I'd like to call the commission to order. And Secretary Burgess, do we have any changes to the agenda today?
Good morning. There are two changes to the agenda this morning. The first is item 162, case 13G0443, which is the enclave at Malta, which had requested an extension of a 5-year limit on a letter of credit to National Grid. That item is over. And the other is just a clarification to item 202. One case number was inadvertently omitted, and that's case 10M0551, the Comprehensive Management Audit of Iberdrola, New York State Electric and Gas, and Rochester Gas and Electric Company.
Okay, thank you. Before we begin our talking about the agenda, I want to note that this is sort of one of those, even though it's not Christmas anymore, best of times and worst of times type of events. And for us, one of the we're delighted and sad to say that Mark Reeder, who's been with the commission for 34 years, will be retiring in the next several weeks, and we'll be spending some time with his wife Cheryl, and we're going to miss him quite a bit. We're going to have a party, and we're going to spend a lot of time lauding him and talking about all the great things he did. But I did want to note that Mark has been as an exceptional person to have at the commission. I often think about it as a sort of we tend to go in a lot of uncharted waters, and having Mark sort of sitting in the ballast and keeping our boat from tipping is always really helpful, and we're going to miss him quite a bit. Fortunately, Mark's done a great job in developing his staff, and we're going to have ask Warren to step up and act as the acting director in regulatory economics. So congratulations to Mark, and Mark, not one for ever leaving an opportunity aside. As we were chatting at lunch yesterday, and I won't tell you the whole story, you have to wait for the party on that, but he did give me a little story lesson in economics, and he was so delighted about his opportunity for retirement that he bought a new pair of pants. But he told me that both from a cost perspective and a shopping perspective, he was very, very prudent in how he went about it. And I'll tell you the rest at his party. And the other thing that I'd like to note is that Jeff Cohen, who is one of our senior advisors, has taken a new opportunity at NYPA and will be leaving us. We're going to miss Jeff quite a bit. And we've also made some organizational changes. I've asked Peter McGowan, who's our general counsel, to take the position, a new position we've created, of Chief Policy Advisor. And Peter will be working with me and with Judy and others as we develop the policy on the commission. We've now asked Kim Harriman, who many of you know as an administrative law judge, as to take the position of acting general counsel. And we've also established a team that's going to be working and leading our Utility of the Future efforts. And we'll have Michael Corso, Peter, and Rudy Stegemiller are leading that team, so more to come on that. But I want to congratulate everyone, and again, always appreciate our staff for stepping up. Did I mess something up or no? Okay, good. So
it's just noting the ceremonial handing of the public service law from Peter to Kim.
That's good. That's good. We also did the ceremonial midnight email last night from Peter to Kim. So with that, anyone say anything? We are going to have a party for Mark, etc. But I did want to. Any other commissioners?
No, I promised I would say absolutely nothing nice about Jeff Cohen, and I'm going to keep my promise.
Great. Greg?
I will say I'm going to very much miss Mark's towering intellect, and I'm going to do my best to get anything I can from him before he retires. And for Jeff, even though you're now going to be a party and therefore have to be more cautious than a senior staffer, you're still permitted to tease me all you want.
Great. Well, thanks. So we're going to move now to the regular agenda. The first item for discussion today is item 201, case 3M0449, which is our focused operations audit on internal staffing levels and use of contractors for selected core utility functions at major New York electric utilities. John Scher, who's our Deputy Director of Office of Accounting, Audits, and Finance, will be presenting this items. John, please begin.
Very good. Good morning, Chairman Zumbelman and Commissioners. Is this working? Okay. In the item before you, staff recommends the Commission approve the release of a request for proposal, or RFP, for an operations audit of the staffing level trends over the past 5 years for key positions at the major New York State investor-owned gas and electric utilities, to determine if staffing levels necessary to provide safe and adequate service are being maintained. The subject utilities include Consolidated Edison, Orange and Rockland, Central Hudson, New York State Electric Gas Corp., Rochester Gas and Electric, National Fuel Gas, Niagara Mohawk, Keyspan New York, and Keyspan Long Island. The RFP will be sent to nearly 50 consulting firms who have previously expressed interest in performing audits for the department and is open to all interested bidders. Governor Cuomo, in his 2013 State of the State address, highlighted the importance of management and operations audits of New York utilities. Moreover, the Governor's Moreland Commission report recommended instituting additional operation audits to supplement the ongoing management audit program. The department's directors formed an advisory committee to review and prioritize potential audit scopes. This is the second operations audit approved by the advisory committee. The Commission launched the first formal operations audit at the August 2013 session. That audit is to review the accuracy of electric service reliability, gas safety, and consumer service performance data reported by the large electric and gas utilities. The RFP before you will launch the second formal operations audit. The RFP details the scope and timeline for the work that we would expect to be performed by an independent consulting firm. In response to the RFP, consultants will explain the experience and expertise that they bring to the table and how they intend to address the scope. Bidders are asked to demonstrate a clear understanding of the objectives and deliverables outlined in the RFP and present the firm's approach to meeting the objectives in a timely and comprehensive manner. Once the proposals are received, they will be read and evaluated by a team of subject matter experts from the offices of Electric, Gas, and Water, Consumer Policy, Consumer Services, as well as accounting, audits, and finance staff. The proposals will be scored, and the highest-ranked firms will be selected as finalists to be interviewed by that team. Based on the interviews, finalists will be evaluated and scored a second time. This evaluation process will yield a selection of a firm that will be recommended to the Commission for approval. We expect to present our recommendation at the May 8th session. The consultant, under the direction of staff, will examine the utility's internal staffing of core utility functions, the criteria and controls used for external staffing, consideration of industry best practices as they may apply to the various New York utility corporate structures, and address the core policy outcomes as articulated in last month's EAPS order. The consultant will make recommendations for improvements as needed. The core functional areas to be studied are those that have the greatest potential impact on the provision of safe and reliable service and customer satisfaction. They include gas and electric engineering, supervision, quality control, field operations, customer service representatives, customer service field staff, DPS liaisons handling complaints, information technology, and last but not least, physical and cybersecurity. A final report from the selected consultant is expected to be presented to staff in August 2015 and to the Commission shortly thereafter. Staff has noted a declining internal staffing levels at some utilities over the past several years and is concerned that the loss of institutional knowledge in the workforce could adversely affect service quality and the utility's ability to respond to emergency events. Formal management audits of NYSEG, RG&E, Consolidated Edison, and the Long Island Power Authority have noted declining internal staff levels and raised concerns over the cost and oversight of external staffing. This audit will examine the utility's internal staffing of certain core utility functions, the criteria and controls used for external staffing, consideration of industry best practices as they apply to the various utility corporate structures, and will make recommendations for improvement as needed. The audit will review the trends at each of the subject utilities, as well as the corporate processes used to manage staffing levels. Cost comparison used by the utilities in making staffing decisions will be studied during this audit to ensure that ratepayers are not shouldering excessive costs as a result of management's decisions. In addition, the consultants will evaluate whether staffing levels are adequate and sufficiently flexible to position the utilities to address the 5 core policy outcomes expressed by the Commission in its December 26, 2013 order approving the EAPS program changes in case 09M0548. These core policy outcomes include ensuring customer knowledge and tools that support effective management of their total energy bill, market animation and leverage of ratepayer contributions, system-wide efficiency, fuel and resource diversity, and system reliability and resiliency. I would recommend that you approve the issuance of the RP to conduct the operations audit of the staffing levels at the major New York State energy utilities, as I've described here this morning. I'm available for your questions.
Thank you, John. Any question for John from any of the commissioners? Okay, thank you. Well, then, let me just take see, all those in favor, then, of the recommendation? Hearing aye and no opposition, the recommendation is approved, and we'll move forward. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item for discussion is item 202, which is cases 808M0152 et al., which is the status reporting on our ongoing management and audit operations. Or ongoing management and operations audits. Sandra Roulette, who's the unit leader of the Office of Accounting, will be giving us an update on this. This is a non-decisional item. So, Sandra, please proceed.
Good morning, Chairs Ebelman and Commissioners. I'm here today to provide you a status report regarding the ongoing comprehensive management and operations audits and several focused operations audits that have been initiated since 2008, when the unit was reinvigorated to comply with Public Service Law Section 6619. The items for informational purposes only, no action is required, and we have no significant issues to report at this time. Here we have a snapshot of the 8 audits being discussed today. There are 6 comprehensive management and operations audits that range in status from nearly complete with the implementation phase, as is the case of Con Ed, to one most recently underway for the 3 national grid gas companies. The scope of these audits includes, but is not limited to, an investigation of the utility's construction program planning in relation to the needs of the customers for reliable service, and also an evaluation of the efficiency of utility operations. Other scope elements have been added. For example, storm preparation and customer billing systems are included in the audit that's currently underway for the 3 national grid gas companies. And last year, as John mentioned, in response to concerns raised by the Governor and Moorland Commission, the Management and Operations Audit staff was augmented for the purpose of dedicating additional resources to the operations audits. Now we have 2 focused audits underway with your last vote. We're going to start off with a comprehensive management and operations audit of Con Edison. The audit was completed in August of 2009 by the Liberty Consulting Group. There were 92 recommendations, 91 of them are complete. The final recommendation, which is the full deployment of a work management system, is expected to be completed in September of this year. Some of the key findings and recommendations from that audit are that Con Edison should develop an electric long-range plan and asset management strategies. Essentially, the company needs to link capital spending to planned results that tie to the future vision. And it should also be able to explain the impact of lesser spending. Another recommendation was that Con Edison should also develop and deploy an electric work management system. Key developments after the audit: Con Edison has developed and expanded the electric long-range plan to include gas and steam into an integrated long-range plan. And the company is now looking at a 20-year time frame as opposed to the 5-year period it was looking at before. Regarding asset management strategies, Con Ed is now viewing expenditures much more holistically. In addition, the financial effects, both in terms of the audit costs and the net savings resulting from the implementation of audit recommendations, are reflected in the rate case joint proposal that will be coming to the Commission next month. Next, we'll turn to the Comprehensive Management and Operations Audit for the National Grid Electric Company, Niagara-Mohawk. The audit was completed in December 2009 by North Star Consulting Group. There were 45 recommendations. The company reports that 32 of them are completed. Staff has accepted 30 as completed, or actually it's 31, and there's one currently under review. The remaining 13 recommendations are expected to be completed in 2014. Some of the key findings and recommendations include the recommendation that the company should consolidate the management of the U.S. transmission and distribution lines of business into one entity and to place more emphasis on discrete New York operations. The audit had highlighted that the line of business model was not protecting New York ratepayer interest. There were also 3 other recommendations related to service level agreements. These agreements basically govern the services that are provided by an affiliate to a regulated utility. And the recommendations essentially codify the utility's expectations for services that are provided by the affiliate and the costs. There were also 5 recommendations regarding project management for the purpose of ensuring adequate planning, documentation, and control over projects that are affecting customer service. Key developments after the audit. Previously, Niagara-Mohawk's transmission and distribution reported to 2 different lines of business. Each line of business reported directly to a CEO in the UK. Despite the transmission and distribution having frequent and interdependent interests, their planning and budgeting were performed by independent departments, so each line of business was vying for the same pool of capital dollars. Clearly, this did not facilitate the promotion and protection of New York ratepayer interest. In response to the audit recommendations, the company reorganized to the jurisdictional model in early 2011. And now, most of the operations functions operate on a U.S.-wide basis with liaisons to jurisdictional presidents. Regarding the service level agreements, per the 3-year rate case joint proposal, the company has agreed to provide certain relevant details, such as service descriptions that align with budgeted costs, and also an annual external cost comparison. Next, we have the Comprehensive Management and Operations Audit for the Central Hudson Electric and Gas business. The audit was completed in March 2011 by North Star Consulting Group. There were 20 recommendations made. Central Hudson reports 18 as completed. Staff concurs that 10 are complete and 8 others are currently under review. The final recommendation to improve the work management system is expected to be completed in July of 2015. Some of the key findings and recommendations are that Central Hudson should develop a comprehensive, integrated strategic plan and performance measures. The company should also seek candidates for the board of directors that reside within the service territory, and that it should develop written affiliate transactions, policies, and procedures. Key developments after the audit include: in June of last year, the Commission approved the acquisition of Central Hudson parent company by Fortis. The merger and resulting JP impacted one recommendation which was related to the Board of Directors. And the end result of that, among other things, was a requirement that at least 2 independent directors be residents of Central Hudson service territory. Subsequent to the merger with Fortis, Central Hudson has added 2 new members to the Board of Directors who both reside in the service territory. Central Hudson has also made revisions to its organizational structure to ensure the separation of responsibilities, and it has developed affiliate transaction policies and procedures, and has developed written policies and procedures regarding the sharing of info between the regulated and the non-regulated entities. Next, we have the Comprehensive Management and Operations Audit for Iberdrola, New York State Electric and Gas, and Rochester Gas and Electric. This audit was completed in August 2012 by the Liberty Consulting Group. 75 recommendations were made. 13 of those recommendations were related to corporate governance, and they were remanded to a separate restructuring proceeding. Since then, 11 of those recs are back in the traditional path, and I'm going to focus on that. You will get an update on those 11 corporate governance recommendations after we get the plan update next month. But staying on the 62 non-governance recommendations that stayed in the traditional management and audit path, the company reports that 35 of them are completed and another 3 are rejected. Staff concurs that 11 recommendations are completed and is reviewing the 27 others. The last non-governance recommendation is scheduled to be implemented later this year. Some of the key findings and recommendations from that audit are that the senior Spanish executives and directors do not take a direct interest in or have more than a general knowledge regarding the details of U.S. regulatory requirements. And the companies should also evaluate what is the most cost-effective size of the overall internal workforce and strive to achieve a balanced and cost-effective workforce level. It was also recommended that they should implement a holistic cost management program and move to a 5-year distribution vegetation trim cycle. Key developments after the audit include the companies created a management team to oversee and manage the company's participation in the New York ISO, FERC, and other such proceedings and issues assessments. This was done to better address some of the U.S. regulatory requirements, especially these that are pertaining to wholesale market issues. The company has also moved its vegetation management time frame to a 5-year time cycle, which is significantly shorter than it was operating under in the past. Our next comprehensive management and operations audit is the National Fuel Gas Distribution Corporation. The audit was completed in August 2013 by Shoemaker. And I'd like to note that this is the first management and operations audit report that was brought to the Commission since the most recent changes to Public Service Law Section 6619. Prior to those changes, the utility just had to file the implementation plan and no Commission action was required. However, now the implementation plans will be SAP'd for comments, and staff will be coming back to the Commission with either recommendations that the plan be approved as filed or with recommendations for modification. The audit report for National Fuel Gas had 76 recommendations, and a couple of the key findings were that the company should establish a formal dividend policy, and that it should develop service level agreements for all major departments within the company that provide services to the regulated entity. The company also should reconfigure the gas supply portfolio to lower costs, add diversity, and minimize risk. Key developments since that audit was completed: the company has filed its implementation plan on September 18th. However, staff recognizes that the 30-day time frame can be a challenge considering the level of detail that's required to be incorporated into the implementation plan. And in fact, the company's plan did lack the sufficient level of detail that's required for staff to effectively oversee the implementation. So we've been working with the company, providing feedback and guidance regarding the level of details that need to be incorporated, and the company will be filing a revised implementation plan tomorrow, after which point we will SAPA the plan and come back to the Commission with a recommendation or to approve as filed or with modifications. I'd also like to note that the company informally reports that it has completed 8 of the recommendations and is currently working on 25 others. Our newest comprehensive and management operations audit encompasses National Grid's 3 gas companies: Upstate Niagara Mohawk, Keyspan Long Island, and Keyspan New York. The RFP was issued in February of last year, and the Commission selected North Star as the consultant for this audit in June. The official kickoff took place in August with the orientation meetings and the initial interviews in Brooklyn, and the audit's currently at about the halfway point, so we expect to have much more information to share with you for the next update. Now I turn the focus over to the operations audits. As John already mentioned, we started the review of the accuracy and the effectiveness of certain reliability and customer service systems back in August when the RFP was issued, and the Commission selected Overland as the consultant in December. And John just recently discussed the focused operations audit regarding staffing levels. So, in conclusion, this item was for informational purposes only. No actions required by the Commission, and this completes my prepared remarks. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Sandra. Any questions or comments from the Commissioners?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment, and thank you for the comprehensive overview. I think Commissioner Akinpor and I are now the historians here. Mm-hmm. And when I first got here, the management audit program was just being revitalized under then-Chairs Akinpora's leadership, and we moved forward. And I just want to comment on the two oldest ones, just the significant effect that I believe they've had. The Con Ed audit, and I will give all the credit in the world to retiring or retired CEO Kevin Burke and their board of directors that really took the audit findings to heart. And I think we saw a fundamental change in the way the company did a lot of planning, of taking a look at the various components of their business together, of looking from a longer-term basis. And it really was a result of the recommendations of the management audit, and they took them to heart. And I've seen a significant change in the way the company plans and operates since that time. And I guess the second example I'll give is National Grid, where the audit said, you got to focus on New York. And again, I think the company took that very much to heart, and I'll give credit to Ken Daly for really trying to get that focus back to New York-centric. There's been some blips along the way, but I think generally the progress has been very good. And it just shows the significance of what a management audit, if done correctly, can affect the whole operations of the company and the utility and the way that their customers get treated. So thank you for your group for the very hard work that's gone into this, and to the consultants and to the utilities that have taken these to heart. I know sometimes it's a bit of a battle along the way, but that's just part of the dynamics of the system. So thank you very much.
Any further questions? Thank you. And let me echo, I think, for both the comprehensive report and also I think it is really very sort of exceptional work because of around the ideas that you identify problems, we solve the problems, and we move on, and I think that's the best way we need to proceed. So thank you, and thank you, Gary, for your historical perspective. We're going to now move on then to item 3, which is our proceeding to examine issues relating to the establishment of a Universal Service Fund, and that's going to be presented by Libby Lipschultz, who is the Chief Administrative Law Judge. So Libby, please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Zibelman and Commissioners. Item 501 before you is a draft order to show cause that will institute a process to bring to conclusion the third and final phase of this case. It is designed to address the remaining open issue, which is reform of originating access charges. The impetus to look at reforming these charges is to make sure that we send appropriate market signals that will stimulate innovation and investment in the telephone and broadband sectors. The FCC has characterized the current regime of access charges as outdated and unfair. It creates competitive distortions because some carriers are required to pay these charges, while their competitors who may be delivering service over a different platform do not. It was this sort of problem that was one of the reasons that this commission initiated our proceeding here, and that the FCC similarly has looked at comprehensive reform. During the pendency of our case, the FCC acted in November of 2011 to issue what we're calling its transformation order. The FCC ordered a 7-year phase out of terminating access charges to reduce them ultimately to zero. The FCC did not act at that time to reform originating access charges. Instead, the FCC issued a further notice of proposed rulemaking in which it proposed to take parallel action with respect to originating access charges. But comments have been filed and received by the FCC in that docket, but the FCC has not to date acted to reform the originating access charges. This past June, this commission announced its intention to have a new scheme in place in time to implement by July 1 of this year to reform originating access charges if the FCC failed to act. Your action today would put that process in place to fill the gap. Of course, if the FCC does act at some point between now and July, you will be free to revisit the process here at the state level and to revise it, continue it, terminate it as appropriate. The draft order before you puts in place a schedule for the phase out of originating access charges and a system for cost recovery that will make this action revenue neutral as to the, I believe it's 38 rural incumbent carriers in the state. Your establishment earlier in this case of a state universal service fund is a key element that makes it possible to take this action on a revenue neutral basis, as those carriers who have high costs will be able to seek recovery from the state universal service fund. The order requires all carriers who will be subject to reductions in their access charges to respond by February 28th. Other interested parties are free to comment by that date as well, and there is an opportunity for replies by all parties. Based on the comments received, we will then assess how best to bring this matter back to the Commission for resolution this spring. That concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions, and Steve Sokol to my right from the Office of Telecommunications is also available for any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Libby, and Steve, welcome. I have no questions or comments.
Chair Zibelman, I'm recusing myself from this matter.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure I understood. If the FCC acts between now and July, I think your statement said that then the Commission could choose a different path. I think even if the FCC doesn't act, we could choose a different path. This is really in order to show cause. It's very important to me that we keep abreast of what's happening at the federal level on all topics, but in particular, the Universal Service Fund is has a long history both at the federal level and the state level, and I think it's important for us to try to make sure that we don't act in a vacuum, and to really, I know that I was not here at the June 2013 session when there was a decision to go a different path in the joint proposal, and I know that there is ongoing litigation with the Universal Service Fund, so it's important for us to make sure that as we go forward we look to really what's happening both on a short-term and a long-term perspective, and make sure that we are doing things that are helpful to provide stability and transition planning to anything that we do, but also keep in mind the goals of the Universal Service Fund and the effect that it might have on the ratepayers, especially the rural folks. So I think it's important for us to be mindful that we really do have a slate open to really take in the comments and see what can be done, and we're not really bound to a certain path that we must do right now.
That's correct, Commissioner. Your action today is essentially procedural. It does announce a bit of a presumption as to the direction the Commission proposes to take, but it does not bind your future action on the merits at all.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you for that explanation. With the I note that Commissioner Sarah is recusing himself. With that, with respect to the other commissioners, I'd like to take a vote on the show cause. Are you all those in favor? Aye. There being no opposition, we will issue the show cause order. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving ahead now, we're to our consent agenda. First, are there any commissioners who wish to recuse or abstain from any of the items on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. Do we have any comments from any of the commissioners on the items in the consent agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor of the recommendations of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. With no opposition, we will then accept those recommendations. Secretary Burgess, are there any other items that are before us today?
There are no other items, and the next commission meeting is February 20th at 10:30.
Okay. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to seeing you next month.